Today's guest is David Harrico, the father of two Scouts, one an Eagle and the other a Venturing Crew president. He's a longtime Scouter, having volunteered at the pack, troop, and crew levels. He's been awarded the Silver Beaver and the Vale La Pena in recognition of his contributions to Scouting. Having supported a son through the Eagle rank, he learned a number of valuable lessons and shares those lessons with other parents, caregivers, mentors, Scout leaders, and others as they find themselves in the throes of providing ongoing support to Scouts as they journey the trail to Eagle through his book, Parenting Through the Ranks. As put by Bill Bryson, past president of the Far East Council, David's emphasis on the role of family in making the Scouting journey a success for the Scout, the family, and the community is exactly what every Scouting parent needs to know before the journey begins. And this book will continue to be a valuable reference throughout the entire journey. And with that, let's join a conversation with author and Scouter David Harrico. Hey, welcome to this very special episode of Eagle Scouts Worldviews. We have a very special guest today, a Scouter and a parent of an Eagle Scout who has written a book, Parenting Through the Ranks. I'd like to introduce you to David. David, how are you today?
Oh, very well. Thank you so much. And you?
I'm just great. My day is a little bit better because I have an opportunity to chat with you. Having had some experience in writing before, I know that it can be a gruesome process. But I'd like to start with the first question for you today is what led you to write the book, Parenting Through the Ranks?
Great. Yeah, it's a great question. So I started this book actually when our children were in Scouts. Our children are both married now. Actually, our daughter just had her first baby a week ago. So we're a bit down that path. And I was traveling a lot and I had a lot of time in airplanes. And I had a lot of time to reflect on what I did well, what I did poorly, what we did well, what we did poorly, what I saw others do well or poorly. And part of my just view on life is how do I give back to others? And that's one way I felt I could give back is why don't I share these things I've learned from my own mistakes, from the mistakes I saw others make, and from what I wish I had done because I saw others do well. And that was really the catalyst for writing the book initially. It's kind of gone through several iterations. We live overseas now. When we were back home last winter, I was talking to a Scouter friend of mine, and I don't even know how this came up. And he had mentioned, you need to publish that book. We need that. Parents need that book. This is different than other books, because a lot of books about how to navigate the Scouting program. This book is specifically about how to parent your Scout through Scouting and beyond.
Yeah, as I make I don't hide the fact that I'm trained in psychology. And as we discussed, we were just discussing a short while ago, you bring a psychological perspective to the whole process. It's not just a rudimentary, this is the first step, followed by the next step, followed by the next step. We're talking about a deeply psychological process of development and making sense of their lived world, which leads to a second question. How do you as a parent, and how do you suggest through your book and through your own experience that you navigate that very precarious balance between inciting external motivation by strong arm guidance, I guess I'll say, as opposed to the more gentle yet much more powerful internal motivation that a Scout might have that will take them along the path to Eagle? How do you suggest people manage that balance?
That's such a good question, and one all the way through. And I mentioned in my book, and anybody that's honest will tell you that I made a lot of mistakes along the way, and I did strong arm early on, and I had the wisdom of probably a fourth grade Scout and my son one day saying, "Hey, Dad, this is Boy Scouts, not Man Scouts," and that really kind of got me thinking, "Oh, I'm making this a little too much about me." And so a lot of this comes down to having a strong relationship with your child in the first place, whether it's a child you're helping raise, maybe you're a grandparent or a relative that's Scouting with your boy or girl now. And so that the position that the child knows you love them opens so many doors. And a lot of that love, especially as they're getting later towards their Eagle Scout in their teens, as you probably will know, is being prepared for conversations that are at the least opportune times. We probably had some of our best conversations with our children as teenagers when I was ready to go to bed and I was exhausted or starting to do something else, and somebody else had guided us through this and said, you need to be ready to invest in your child in time whenever they're ready to invest. And so there's some sacrifices that come from that, but that investment, that knowledge that the child knows they're loved, opens them up to being honest with, I'm struggling. I'm not sure I want to continue to pursue my eagle. I don't know that this other thing might be more important to me. But when you get down to and I've seen so much of this, the bribes or the threats that either you can't get your driver's license until you have your eagle, or I'll buy you a car, or you get later curfew, starts to sound a lot more like the eagle's more important to the parent than to the scout, as opposed to having genuine, honest conversations. Because we know a teenage mind doesn't work like a parent 40-year-old, 30-year-old with 50-year-old mind. It's had some experience. And when we invest in a relationship, we earn the right from the youth to come alongside and say, have you considered these other components? Right now, your friends may be doing this. Is that going to help you further your long-term goals? And have that conversation, which is so honoring to them as youth growing into adults and learning how to make good decisions. And that's what I've seen work really well and very rewarding.
Yeah, as you were talking, it was like I was sitting back in one of my college classes when we talked about effective communication has to take into account how a person behaves, how they think, and how they feel. And
Yes.
and when you talk a child coming in an inopportune time, but you're stopping and saying, "We're going to make this all about you," brings feelings of just inexplicable joy to the heart of anyone.
Yes.
Yeah, what a great example of the power of good psychological premise for building effective communication to be. There's one challenge that a lot of Eagle Scout, and I'll use the word parents, but I use that whether it be a guardian, whether it be a scoutmaster, a grandparent, a minister. There are all kinds of influential people in the lives of scouts. But one of the challenges that they're facing, and it seems that now more so than a few decades ago, are people are putting off that road to Eagle until they're later in life. And I've spoken with lots of people who have lifelong regret that they didn't get it done in time.
Yes.
So without the browbeating, without the strong arming, what suggestion would you give parents, guardians, or whoever it might be, to gently guide that scout into earlier action on the trail so they have sufficient time to complete that service project?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And there's a balance, right? Because there's pushing too hard too soon that's also not good. I think, at least in my experience, having a great foundation in scouting before starting the Eagle path is really valuable. So the first class, I call it first class first, focusing on that. I mean, if that's where a scout stops, my gosh, they have skills most young men and women in the world never develop. First aid, communication, citizenship. I mean, just incredibly valuable skills they build that wow their friends at school with what they're able to do. And so I would actually start all the way back at the beginning of scouting and build a great base on which to build the Eagle foundation. The other thing we did, my son and I, is basically if there was an Eagle project in our troop, and there's a large troop, I mean, there were 100 scouts. And so there were a lot of Eagle projects. But our policy for the two of us was if there's an Eagle project, we'd go to it. And I think that did a lot to develop a desire in him because he saw so many other people giving back to the community. He saw the camaraderie in working on projects, and that helped instill a desire to do that himself. And so that's not why we did it, frankly. We did it out of a sense of duty, really, because we're part of a troop. But I now, looking back, see the benefits of having done that and building the momentum, because that's part of it, right? Is the momentum to carry you through the tedious parts and the hard parts and the cumbersome parts. And that building that firm foundation in YLT is absolutely so important in developing those stronger leadership, national youth leader training. Getting that in early enough without being too early, like 14, 15, probably in there is what I would be thinking, when you're mature enough to make good leadership decisions, but still young enough to listen to adults when they advise you. That's part of it. And I'll tell you that it's so key to keep goals aligned too. Is this still your goal? Like, and what we were talking about earlier is making sure it's not, and I'm sure I cross that line at times, that it's not on the adult trying to push, but on the scout and encourage. Like, if this is still your goal, let's sit down and look at what's the phrase they use, eating an elephant one bite at a time. Let's get some interim goals to help you. And many troops have an Eagle advisor, so we want to be sure we're not crossing the line there. I definitely want to come alongside and encourage the other unit leaders that have you talked to your advisor, have you talked to your scoutmaster. I'm here for you, opening my network to you. If those of you that have a network that will help you, really being a partner in this, not a driver, and asking lots of questions. It sounds like you're struggling. Do you need a break? Do we need to take a month or so off because you've been going hard, and so they don't burn out before they even get to the point of the Eagle? So it's a general balance between encouraging, recognizing the time is ticking, helping a teenager recognize, there are going to be some conflicts come in that you aren't seeing now. Maybe not even just conflicts you might be expecting, but you might get a job in the future that's going to cut into your time. And so helping them build in buffer for that project so that they aren't stressed at the very end. I mean, there's going to be some stress, of course, that's leadership, but helping them navigate that so it's not an onerous process that is just not fun. I mean, Scouts is still fun, and the Eagle Scout project should still be fun along with the work.
We oftentimes have an easy time identifying skills building, first aid, knot tying, boating, whatever it might be. But oftentimes we don't fully understand the deeper, more subtle skills building. And one of those things that you mentioned is tenacity, the stick-to-itiveness it takes to get. It's not an easy road from first day of scouting to that Eagle Court of Honor. And motivation, the downtime, the boring times, the drudgery, that's part of it as well. And identifying that and supporting is an integral part of the support that these significant other folks can give. I want to go back just a little bit because I love the one-liners. And when one falls in my lap, I guess I'm telling you up front, I'm going to steal it. When your son said, "Dad, this is Boy Scouts, not Man Scouts."
Oh, man.
That hit me.
Like, just stick it in.
Hard. Talk about you're having to gasp for air. But what a great message. And you were able to receive that message and took the meaning behind it and adjust. Wow. That's
very thankful for that.
As you're talking, I'm saying that all of this has just absolute razor focus on scouting. But isn't this just general good parenting skills as well?
Yeah,
so the scouting experience can help parents and adults become better people in of themselves. That's pretty exciting.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's part of what in some of the bylines in the book. It's okay. We want to raise successful scouts. That's the catalyst for a book. But really, the goal is so much broader than that. Like you said, that if a child reaches their Eagle Scout and has no relationship with you at the end, I think that's a loss. If a child doesn't reach Eagle Scout and has a rich relationship with their parents, it's open and honest, that's a win. Now, granted, we both think the Eagle Scout and relationship is the best win, and it is. I think it is. But so much of this is, well, what happens after Scouts? We want to set our kids up for life and for success in school and for success in relationships. And what I found for me and the catalyst for this book was, we're thinking about Scouts. We're thinking about what we do to help our child be successful in Scouts. But really, to your point, it's just success in life. And this gets us a place to put that in context. There are so many other parenting books that, one, are very long. This one's only 150 pages long. I kept it short and concise. I could have made it very much longer, but I remember the parenting days. What I did not need was another 350-page book to read. And so this was a little much more concise. It is not. I don't dance around issues. I call out what I see, and again, some people are going to agree, and some people are going to disagree, and some people are going to agree later, and some people are going to disagree later. But I think we owe it, when we share our thoughts, to share what we believe and let people make their decisions from there.
Yeah. From the perspective of a Scouter, a parent of an Eagle Scout, involved in church activities and the like, and talking about the benefits that Scouts can receive both today and through the rest of their lives, what in your opinion is it about Scouting that is such a rich opportunity to build for today and for the future in a person's life?
Absolutely. Yeah, there is. I still think the Scouting program is the best youth leadership development program in the world. There are many other programs that develop a facet of leadership or a skill or refine a gift, whether it's music, acting, sport, chess, any of those things, but they're very focused. I don't think there's another organization outside Scouting that offers the breadth that Scouting does. I mean, Baden-Powell knew when he set this up in 1907 that kids need to be outside. I actually did a leadership development program in Yorkshire, and they set us to build a wall with no instruction. And there's something about being outdoors in the uncontrolled that does so much for developing both your own abilities as well as your leadership abilities and your abilities to follow. There's just not another place that offers that breadth, and experientially. Like in school, you might learn leadership, you might do some techniques, you might be in a leadership position in an organization, but to have the breadth of, we talked about earlier, first aid, citizenship, camping, rock climbing, whatever, Sea Scouts, and all the adventuring. For example, our daughter, before girls were in Scouts, before Scouts BSA admitted girls, she was in venturing, and she was part of a medical-oriented venturing program. She's now a doctor, so that was part of her discernment process into a future career. But when she was 16, she and another young man in her crew were certified as Red Cross first aid instructors. I mean, where else does that happen outside of Scouting, that a 16-year-old is recognized by an international organization with skills sufficient to train other adults in first aid and CPR? I mean, there isn't another place that offers that. And that's what I think is something Scouts offers. And we kind of touched on it earlier. The youth certainly benefit, but the whole family benefits. If one of the members of the family is in Scouts and the family dynamic allows for them to share what they learn, everyone benefits. Mom, dad, grandparents, whoever's involved in them, in the Scouting program, siblings that may not be involved, learn from those experiences. We used to have our son and his sister practice setting up their tents together, even before she was in Scouts, to help him get ready for Scouts. This is when he was a wee below. But also now she's getting involved, and she ended up through venturing doing a lot of the same thing. So it's just unbelievable leadership development and breadth that no one else offers.
Yeah. If there's an argument that supports the decision to become inclusive in terms of gender, I think you just delivered that to the world. So thank you for that insight.
Yeah.
Hey, we need to finish this up, but as always in these interviews, I want to give you the opportunity to send any message at all you'd like to viewers in the future. So the floor is now yours, David. Great.
Thanks so much. Probably the first thing I'd say is, actually to the gender question, like I was one of the ones that thinking, why are girls coming into Boy Scouts? And now looking back, it's like most of my friends, this is the best thing that's ever happened. And so one of the things we loved so much about Scouts, we're a very devoutly Christian family, and it gave us a place to have really genuine dialogue. The Duty to God program is so rich in allowing the diversity of thought, and it really helped our faith develop, both my son and daughter and me. I mean, all of us and my wife, because it led them to ask questions. So when they left home, they weren't taking our faith with them, which is dangerous. They were taking their faith with them. And it gave us a place to have, in a very respectful way, imagine if the whole world operated like a good scout troop did, in the fact that the ethical dilemmas that come with the venturing crew, or you can have in scout units, to respectfully agree and disagree and have meaningful conversations about difficult topics. I mean, gosh, I mean, you can imagine how much better the world would be. Now, do we want to, maybe some people think, oh, Scouts is not progressive enough. Some probably think, oh, Scouts is too liberal. And the reality is you can find what you're looking for in a Scout unit. What I hate to see is people throwing the baby out with the bathwater, saying, we're not doing Scouts because I don't like this part. And there are parts I don't like. There are parts I didn't like. But when you look at the overall program, what you can take from it, and teaching our children now, when they're at very influential ages, how to navigate things they don't agree with and still be respectful of the person with whom they're disagreeing, we're setting them up for success throughout their whole life, and for developing relationships with people that might not, in another context, be someone they'd be talking to. And that doesn't mean you're friends with everyone, but at least we're teaching them through scouting how to have meaningful dialogue and respectfully disagree. And I think that's an incredibly powerful component of scouting that I would never want people to lose sight of.
I hate to cut this off. I really do. It's when we're done here, I will literally continue talking to you until you shut me up.
This is a wonderful topic.
But for this, I really appreciate your time and your insight. I have no doubt that people will benefit from it in the future. And with that, folks, we'll say goodbye to David and invite you to our next episode of Eagle Scouts Worldviews. Thanks for being with us today.